Welcome to the show today. What's up, everyone? I am Max, your host of the RHMax channel. If you haven't seen that 500 times before, this is your first time viewing. Now you know. Now you know my name. Now you know the channel's name. And now you know the guest we're having, because I'm about to tell you his name is Dipcatcher. Also at Tanto Namini, something like that. The most hard name to spell of a common person you would chat with about crypto on the internet. But that's okay, because everyone gets to pick their name. Everyone gets their own unique style. And eventually I'll learn to spell it. That's on me. If you can't spell Tanto Namini, I don't know why I'm saying an Italian way. Maybe you can explain. It sounds like it should be, there should be some sort of deal on it. I don't know. I'm going to ask him. But welcome to the show. Let's see who we got. We got Bullish. What's up, Bullish? Let's effing go, por favor. That means please in Espanol, and a conjugation of other languages too, probably. 200 team out of the gate, 200K. Yeah, as I said, you could do a 200K maxi market buy and then transfer that to team if you like, or wait till team's on the market. Up to you. I'm sure we'll know more about how to get a hold of it soon. What's up, HEX Dex? Welcome to the show, sir. Christian, it sounded crazy. It did sound a little crazy. I assume you're talking about the me. All right, I'm not gonna do my Italian accent anymore. I've been to Rome. I need to go to Italy more. I really like Italy. And now I started watching The Talented Mr. Ripley. And when they're in Italy for a lot of it, and great movie, by the way. And now y'all got me thinking about Italy. There we go. That's how it works. Tanto Nomini. That's how it's pronounced officially. Yeah, Satoshi Hexamoto. That's I think it's the closest we're going to get together without bringing him in. But if we want to get to the true answer, the real answer of this mystery, the most important thing for sure you can learn today, that would only be accomplished by, first of all, sharing the link. Oh, I thought I was going to say something else, didn't you? Share the link, por favor. You need at least 700 people watching before we get started. Tried to hold it in. All right. I'll settle for more than 13. I'll settle for that. You already have Maxi. Okay. I mean, you can still, it's not mutually exclusive. You can still market buy Maxi if you already have Maxi. There's no rule saying you can't do that. You could just market buy some more or limit buy, whatever you prefer. But everyone else prefers market buy, I think, if you're going to do large amounts, right? For everyone else, at least, not you. That is not advice for the individual. Yeah, Christian, we're going to get to the questions here in a sec. All right, I think we got a good number here. We got a good number. Yep, we're going to get to questions here in a sec. Without further ado, welcome to the stream, Dipcatcher.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Congrats, we hit our 700 mark of watchers, so we're good to go. Oh, we're good to launch.
Go. Only 700?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I try to set a low number. You know, if expectations mean disappointments, so if you don't have high expectations, you'll be less disappointed. So just 700 people. I think we'll be able to disseminate the information if we have at least that number. And HexDeck brought them all in, so thanks for that, HexDeck. Welcome back, man. It's been a couple months. I had you on a couple months ago.
Yeah,
and things were much different back then. They were.
Yeah, it's things are moving fast in Hexaco.
They are. We're moving towards getting that island up and running. I've heard some murmurs about that island. The community has been exploding as far as, I mean, holders, not only holders, but also just new projects, for better, for worse. Of course, today we definitely like our positive feedback loop projects. So that's another reason why I was so excited to talk to you, because I think with Hedron and Icosa, Hedron wasn't super complicated for me. And yeah, I have like a engineering type background too. So for me, it's a little easier to grok some of these concepts than average Joe trader out there. Thankfully, I'm fortunate enough to be able to understand these a little bit quicker, I think. And then Icosa, I was like, oh my God, what is this thing? Like Icosa, and then Watsa, it took me forever. Like, it's like, what is this? And then when we got to Team, so in the midst of that before launch, I was like, Team, okay, Team, what is this? And then the Perpetuals. Then you hit me with the Perpetuals. I'm like, oh, there's like 5 tokens. what is going on right now? So it's just a lot of compounding information there. And, but it's a good thing. In general, I think I'd rather a project be complicated and great than simple and, a low ceiling type of deal. So, but I think it's going to, and also, funny enough, great for marketing long term, because the more people who have to spend brain power to get in, that sunk cost fallacy. If you spend a bunch of time to get into something and learn something, you're more often going to hold on to it, stay around. Lindy effect kicks in and all that stuff too. So, anyways, that was my experience with it the last couple months of it. Because I remember, when I had you on, you were talking about Max. Yes, there's a new project coming up. You didn't say the name. You said a little bit about it, but yeah, man, the last 2 months it felt like 5 years of crypto in our community. At least it really has.
Yeah, things are humming along. It's electric, I think. And
electric. It's a good way to put it. Just going through the chat for a sec. Max Tanto. All right.
So you want to talk about the name and kind of where? Okay, so I pronounce it Tanto Nominai. Tanto Nominai, and it's actually Latin. It comes from a Latin phrase. It's actually on it. There's this famous author from long time, many hundreds of years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli, and on his grave, he just all it says is Tanto Nominai Nolum Par Elohium, and what that means is so great a name deserves no eulogy. Like, as it, where that person is so great that nothing you can possibly say after they're gone can even explain it. Wow. And so Tanto Nominai, it just means like a great name.
A great name. So, yeah, I like that. It's kind of like a meta name. Yeah, your name is a great name.
Yeah, so that's the kind of where it comes from.
I think everyone in the community hopes your meta great name goes down to fulfill those aspirations, because if you keep creating products like this, if you and Alex and everyone else keep creating products like this, you will be world renowned one day. You will be, you will have that great name that made of gold that, that nobody can shatter. So
yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping to make an impact and, allow other people to experience the benefit of that. And, and it's a lot of fun too. It's kind of, it's weird. There's really not much pressure at all, because it's just, a fun creative outlet. It's good. It's a good feeling when people really see the value and really, latch on to these concepts. And I feel like what we're creating actually solve real problems and really create a great experience for the end user. So across the board, it's really not that difficult. It's just kind of doing the next thing and just following momentum. And so, yeah, feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we're going to get into that too a little bit. Some of the criticisms around creating new coins. I want to talk about that because that's been a topic the last few weeks, and we definitely have people in the community taking one side, taking the other side, being silent otherwise. But I really, it's not even, when I think about it, I don't even get into the drama aspect. I just literally look at it from first principles as, what do these products do? Do they help your blue chip, the RH blue chips? Do they not? Do they provide utility, onboard, a positive feedback loop, or are they just meme? And if they are meme, does that, are they memed in an angle to provide onboarding and all that stuff? We'll get into it later, but that's something I've been talking about for a while too. And you'll have that name and be rich. Yeah. Again, if you create value for society, you should be rewarded. Elon Musk, richest man in the world. Why is that? He created a ton of value for society. So if you're creating a project, especially projects like Dipcatcher and Alex and folks, you create value for society, you make other people rich, you certainly deserve to be very, very rich. Yeah. Are you in Vegas, by the way?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Awesome. All right. I will see you there then.
Yeah.
I'll be there as well. Come by the, I don't know what booth I got. I think I'm sharing a booth with somebody. Hopefully Alex and Pedron. You got a booth? Do you have a booth there?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe, I don't know. So they're supposed to let me share a booth just to give away a bunch of RH swag stuff. So it won't be very long. So I don't know. Maybe I'll share your booth or someone else's, but
yeah, dude, you're more than welcome. That
would be awesome. Yeah. Maybe I'll mention that to Nikki and the coordinator. But but yeah, I got a bunch of like free RH swag to give away, and I'm like, I just need it for like I don't know how long it's gonna last. Maybe just a couple hours, something like that. But like, I don't know how fast they're gonna go. I don't have that much stuff, but anyways, I will be there giving away some stuff, and you can have your own RH. Actually, that's a good question. So the shirts are themed by year. What year did you come across RH, start following, whatever?
2018.
Okay, I have that shirt. I have from 2017
or maybe
to 2022.
2017. It might have been 2017. It was
Okay.
before. Yeah, because pretty much when I started in crypto, it was like mid 2017, and then the people that I was learning from the most were Richard Hart and Trace Mayer. So, yeah, I think I started listening to RH 2017, 2018. I'll have to look at when the videos came out. There are a couple of videos in particular that were some of the first ones that I watched. So I'll have to check that timestamp. But yeah, 2017 or 2018.
Welcome to the club. I'm in the 2017 club as well. I have that shirt. I have a shirt for you. So what else we got? First time I catch RHMax live. Well, thanks for joining live. Yeah, I know a lot of people, they don't catch live, but then I get hundreds of views or even 1,000 afterwards. So I don't know.
What time do you usually stream?
Usually either 11 in the morning PST or 4 in the afternoon PST. So either 2 Eastern or 7 Eastern. And that's just the most convenient time for me. So it's like, I mean, I can't really change them unless I have a really good reason to, because my life is more important than streaming. But I try to accommodate as best I can.
Yeah.
Just pull the trigger, pull it. Tan Tau no Mini. That's another way. We went through it, but it's another way. Gold Key looks more like a Viking than Zoro, though. He does remind me of, like, I feel like he should be on the Viking show or Game of Thrones or something. He has that.
Oh yeah, he definitely does.
Him and Axis Alive, but both of them have that like northern look. Yeah, I like it. All right, man. Let's get into the weeds. I want to know. I don't think anyone's explained this in a succinct way, and I know you're one of the few people who probably can. What is a staking pool? Like, before we get into team and max and all that stuff, what is a staking pool? How do they work? And can you give us some examples, like compare and contrast a few different ones?
Yeah. So a staking pool simply is where, rather than staking on your own, you join a group where you all put your HEX into the pool, and then the stake is done all at once instead of everybody doing their own individual stake. And so staking pools have a lot of advantages versus staking on your own. One is that you earn more yield because of the bigger pays better bonus. 2, which is probably the most important one, and this was really the motivating factor of why I started building these trustless staking pools, is the gas savings. So for individual users, you save a ton of money on gas, because rather than every user having to pay for gas on their own for ending the stake, which can be quite expensive, especially for the long stakes, you only have to, only one gas fee is paid to end the whole entire stake. And then the redemption from the stake pool that you redeem your token for your ownership of it, that gas is cheap. It's very cheap compared to the gas for ending the stake. So that's an important one for just the users, saves money. But in aggregate, as over thousands of users, that makes a really big impact on the amount of money that's able to be kept in the HEX economy, because all the money that everyone's paying for gas is money that they either have to sell HEX for ETH to pay for the gas, or they just hold the ETH separate and then never have bought the HEX in the first place. And so
is that different with PulseChain though? Is that different if
so I mean, big if when it launches, but also if PulseChain, the fees will only be cheap at the start, because one, there's going to be a fraction of the activity that there is on Ethereum. 2, it does increase the net capacity of the chain by because I think blocks go every 3 seconds instead of every 10 seconds, and I think the blocks are a little bit bigger. So we give up.
Not only the gas fees, but like instead of using ETH, we're using Pulse to do transactions. So I know we're still giving Pulse away in that way, but doesn't that kind of feed into the buy and burn type of thing too?
So yeah, it does. So so for people that hold Pulse, that's fine. But also as the Pulse price goes up, the fees go up. And if PulseChain becomes a smashing success, the fees are going to be, they're also going to creep up, so it's not like, I think it's unwise to assume or have the expectation that someone's going to come and solve fees for you, because it's kind of like, it's having high fees is a positive thing. That means that the blockchain is, people view it as, secure and permanent. And there's high demand for that block space. So you think about the blocks as the product that the blockchain sells you. They sell you the right to store information on it. And so if you want a successful blockchain that, spans like retail and institutional use cases, and has, onboards billions of people, then, they're with finite block space, then the fees can absolutely go up. And so I'm preparing, especially for the longer term, I'm preparing for high fees on PulseChain. And even regardless, it's, still a benefit to, for the ETH side, because the whole reason that PulseChain is like, the secret sauce behind PulseChain is in that like dual chain, like where both chains have, where they like similar system state to start, and then they're working independently of each other forever. And then they're connected with that PulseX bridge. That's like the secret sauce behind PulseChain, is that like that these financial applications can operate across two chains where they're connected by a market. And so the ETH side is still going to always be important, because with like PulseChain on its own, yeah, it can be successful, but PulseChain working in tandem with Ethereum, that's like world changing, major competitive advantage versus other layer ones, because none of the other layer ones necessarily work in tandem with Ethereum in that sense. And so
what does that
like
open up? Can you expand on that just a little bit? Like, what does that open up? If that's something that's a game changer for PulseChain, like, for people to just understand, like, why is that so important versus all the other blockchains?
Because say, for some use cases, perhaps they don't make sense to do on it, like, for a smart contract to run entirely on Ethereum. So you could, bridge over to PulseChain by means of a market, and then, run some operation there and then settle onto Ethereum, or vice versa. So, having that, it's beneficial for, spreading the load where, because Ethereum has its own set of benefits and PulseChain has its own set of benefits. And so, for different use cases that have different requirements to be able to, operate on, do the like operations on the chain that suits, their requirements, and then settle on the chain that they may be settling in. That's a big benefit. Also, it provides some resilience, where if, you have your system where, you treat it as a dual chain system from the start, then that makes you pretty resilient to different threats or different, compromises or different, issues that may arise, because, rather like, because you can kind of span two independent chains, and kind of, shift between the two. And so, it's almost like, because, there's a copy of all the assets, at least the assets that exist when it launches. And so having that copy, because it's given equally to everyone, it's like as if it always existed, or as if it like is, given to nobody. So it's, it's like the system is now like kind of bifurcated in that way. And then, and so having the dual chain, kind of, operation of a smart contract just makes it a little bit more resilient, where, where things are settled in the market across the two, where, that's how the market like expresses the risk across, like between running your contract on Ethereum versus PulseChain. And so I think it just adds a little bit of resilience to these systems. It brings in speculative opportunity, and the more speculative opportunity there is, then the more liquidity there is, and that can really boost financial applications. So across the board, PulseChain on its own, is good, but a like dual chain PulseChain Ethereum, foundation for financial applications, like there's something really special in that. So that's why I think it's important to, not just assume that PulseChain is going to solve some gas fee problem, because it's like, okay, if you think it's going to go up 10,000x and you think it's going to onboard all kinds of applications and use cases, then that's going to be expensive to use. And I know people talk about, forking away from, that forever, but it's like, okay, you're just going to fork away from your problem forever. And so like I'm not expecting low fees on PulseChain, and I'm especially not expecting low fees on Ethereum. So the gas savings is really important for keeping money in the HEX economy, because it that's money that is otherwise going to other classes of users that aren't necessarily hexagons. Maybe on PulseChain, the validators who are earning those fees are likely to be hexagons, but maybe they won't be in due time. So gas saving is really critical, and that's why we're so I guess keep talking on the stake pool. So that's like to me the main benefit of stake pooling, and like why it's so important is that retention of value in the HEX economy that's otherwise being bled out. And I'm not, it's better to prepare for the worst and expect the worst than to have high expectations and hopium that like, oh, Richard will fix it. It's like, that's a lot of expectations. That's a lot of, what if something goes wrong? What if it doesn't work? Like, you should prepare for the worst, because what's the worst that, if you prepare for high gas fees and then the fees are low, then it's like, okay, who cares? We had the benefit of having, lower fees anyways, even if the fees in total are low, it's like the stake pooling participants are going to have less fee impact. And then, they earn more HEX just from the bonuses. And then also you have the liquidity, since the stake pools, they issue a token that is backed by the underlying stake. They, you have instant liquidity if you ever need. So there's a lot of benefits to stake pooling, and to me the most critical one, and that's why I started when EIP 2929 happened, and the cost of running the S-load, like of using the S-load opcode, which is used in that interest rate calculation, where every day that you're calculating interest, it runs that function, which costs, it's like, I think I'll have to look on hexnoob.com. It's like 1,200 units of gas. That suddenly became 3 times as expensive last year. So when that happened, it all clicked to me. And then when I figured out that a max length stake, or even the long stakes in general, like each additional day costs more gas, that's when it all clicked to me that it's kind of stupid that everyone is staking on their own when smaller stakers should be pooling, and to reduce the amount that they're paying, and then also to keep more money in the HEX economy. But then, there's also the liquidity benefit of the pools, is that, you can, sell, transfer the token that's backed by is fully fungible, fully transferable. And then that seems to be a really, really important use case for people. That was more of like a side effect. Like the main reason I built this was for the gas savings, but that liquidity aspect of it, that seems to be something that's really, really popular amongst users.
Well, so what are the disadvantages though? Like, what are some of the trade-offs you make when in doing stake pools versus just buying and staking HEX?
So you introduce, it's just another layer to the stake, but it's that risk is kind of counteracted, one through just the audits, two by these contracts are so simple. Like in introduction, you're kind of describing the complexity. These are actually very, very simple, in how they work, and it's it's just barely adding any like interface to it, and the contracts are so simple, and they're audited, but they're so simple that a user can reasonably read them, and make sense of it. And I support that with making videos where I go through line by line, and I really make sure to provide as many resources as possible so people can personally understand what's going on. Because if because it introduces that little bit of contract risk, if you want to call it that, it's important for people to understand it, and then for them to be able to measure that risk for themselves. And so so that's kind of how you counteract that. And that's pretty much what I consider, the only, but it's really not much different than, if you're staking through MetaMask, it's like, are you reading the software underlying your MetaMask that's, connecting to the HEX contract and signing the transaction, like probably not. And so it's, kind of an additional layer on top of that. So, that's really the main, drawback, from that. But other than that, I think the benefits, especially for the smaller users, massively outweigh that one piece of risk.
Well, how do you think things would be different if, Hedron, Icosa, Maxi, Team, none of this existed? There were no HEX derivatives, things like that. How do you think that would be different for HEX? And, again, you have some people in the community who are like, oh, this is splitting, which, I mean, it is splitting buying pressure. Or power. It's a fact. But what kind of trade-off are you making with it? Are you improving things with a positive feedback loop, or are you just taking money away that's never going to come back? There's a difference between the two, but how are these derivatives? What is the case for making HEX better and short term or long term, and what is the case, I guess, against it? If you can describe it.
Yeah, so they make HEX better. I mean, kind of what I was describing. The user benefits, those are better, and the keeping more money in the HEX economy than what would otherwise be bleeding out in gas fees. That's like the big benefit, and that to me pretty much outweighs any type of downside. But also, with these pools, it simplifies the user experience. Especially with these perpetual pools we have coming up, it drastically simplifies the user experience of staking HEX. It allows participants to earn more HEX than they would staking on their own, and it attracts more users into staking that otherwise are holding liquid because of fees. And so those are some pretty critical benefits. I also think that these perpetuals that we're launching, Base, Trio, Lucky, and Deci, so 1 year, 3 year, 7 year, and 10-year stake pools, they introduce new avenues for onboarding users. These are it's because we're equipped with like a new sales pitch. Less fees, higher earnings, easier to use. You just either hit buy or you hit mint, depending on if you're minting the coin or you're just going to buy it. So, those I think are positive for bringing new people into the HEX economy. And then, so as far as downsides, I don't think that these pools divert funds away from like HEX, because it's not like wrapped, because these are basically wrapped. It's basically wrapped HEX. So kind of like WETH, like wrapped ETH. Like wrapped ETH doesn't, take money away from it, because it is it, and like these pools are HEX. Like they're fully backed. They're actually over, because they earn more than they started with. They're actually like over collaterals.
How does wrapped ETH work? Just for people who don't know.
So
like, is it a derivative of ETH, or is it bridged over ETH?
No. So wrapped ETH is where you deposit ETH into the smart contract, and the smart contract issues you one wrapped ETH. And the purpose of wrapped ETH is because Ethereum itself is not ERC20. It's just ETH, like it's its own thing. But wrapped ETH is ERC20. And so wrapped ETH is what smart contracts that are based around the ERC20 standard use as a placeholder for ETH. So wrapped ETH is, so it's fully redeemable 1-to-1. So
okay, but for this example, you gave wrapped ETH an example, but I could say, well, people aren't choosing to buy wrapped ETH versus ETH. They're buying ETH and then they're wrapping it, versus, if you're choosing to buy Hedron, Icosa tokens and things like that, or Maxi and Team, you're choosing one over buying, HEX.
I'd say that applies more for Team, because holding these coins is like, if you're choosing to buy that, it's like you're buying it from someone who had already minted the for instance Base, so like you're buying it from someone who had already minted it, so that person had already bought it, and then that person's selling anyways, so like you're kind of just taking their place. And
maybe that's the disconnect. People taking the place instead of actually buying something there was no history of HEX involved. You're sort of taking the place in the line of that person. Is that what you think a lot of people are missing in this argument?
Yeah, because I mean, and also I think really it comes down to choice, and also like expectations of others. Like I don't have the expectation that anyone is going to buy the things that I like, and I would never put that on people to only be putting positive buy pressure on the assets that I tell them to. It's their keys, their cheese, their choice. So I actually do, I personally don't even, put myself in that situation to determine what people should and shouldn't be buying, because that is their choice. If I wanted to make that choice for them, then I should reach them with a better message, reach them with, better, be more persuasive. And so I like it really, that's kind of what it comes down to, to me. I think that the amount, like with these perpetuals, because it provides a lot of user benefits to staking, that's the key benefit. But also because it provides an improved user experience, that that can make it a stronger thing to onboard into. And so if people care about getting people to onboard into it, then improving the feature set, reducing fees, improving the the earning capacity of the HEX, like that's kind of the thing that it's intended to do. And because you can't force anyone to buy anything, and having that expectation that people are only going to buy the things that you have and what the community wants people to buy, that's there's kind of some disconnect there. But I think that these are more the purpose of these pools is to boost the financial utility of HEX, and so that's really the purpose. And it has the side effect of having like a good sales pitch that you can promote to new users who could be onboarded into HEX through these systems. And so that's that's the key benefit. But it really comes down to people are free to make their own choice on what they buy, and people are free to buy dog shit if they want, frankly. And so
they will sell it to you. There's a market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean there really is hot. There's what all this stuff show. It shows that there's a lot of appetite to take on more and more risk. Because really, I think the reason why we're seeing this like influx of all these new coins, I think there's stuff that we're making where we're actually solving like a direct problem that's existed already, and we're building upon the feature set of HEX, by introducing the liquid staking and reducing the fees through that. But there's this other class of new coins and new things that are like entirely separate, and they try to link it, but like, oh, well, we're going to bring awareness to HEX by marketing to this avenue of people. But and because people participate in those, or so these like Rube Goldberg machines, where it's like, okay, funds are going to move from here to here, and then it's going to pump the price of the thing that you want to pump. Like what they show is that there's a lot of appetite for people to lever up the risk because they want to lever up the reward. So a lot of these people that are entering these things are probably people that, they saw the 10,000x price move. Maybe they bought the top and they want to achieve that high gain. And so they, whereas HEX is like by now relatively low risk, they want to take on more risk in order for the chance of having that like really high multiple. Right. And so that's really what it is. Like, that's why there's so much of this stuff going on now, is because, there's a lot of people that saw those big gains, but didn't get them personally. And so those people have the appetite to just take on more risk. And so that's kind of why I think we're seeing a lot of this stuff. And it really comes down to, people's choice. And then people, they take on that risk on their own accord. People, that's kind of what I think the beauty of crypto is that people take their own risk. And it's like you can, persuade them. I personally try to, just produce higher quality, better products, that can, it's like kind of even what Richard used to say, like the best way to, squeeze out scammers is to introduce things that, get people into that before they can reach the scams. Like not anything is a scam, but just that, building stronger competitors, I think is to me, that's how I approach it, rather than trying to tell people what they should and shouldn't buy, or like what's good or what's bad, because I don't have the expectation that anyone's going to, buy the things that I want them to buy.
Well, so is there a way to see the difference between the two, of something that's, eating capital from HEX, and then something that is actually, maybe they're marketing that way, but it doesn't really have that effect, and then versus the actual positive feedback loop? Is there a way to look at a project and evaluate it and determine, hey, this is actually good for HEX, or this is not good for HEX, or and they're just kind of like trying to act like it is.
Yeah. So I mean, if it directly adds features that make the use of HEX more attractive, then that's that's probably it.
There's a lot of
Like,
hopium that goes into this stuff too. A lot of like, oh, this is going to bring onboarding because of this, or we're going to get this community, or this is this. How do you tell the difference between like this? Like, is it at the contract level? You have to look at like, what does the contract do? Are you taking the place of someone who has made a 555 stake, or stuff like that, or are you just like, we're hoping to onboard these people because it has something to do with HEX?
yeah, I mean, I think that like that if it's purely on just like like that it's going to drive awareness factor, then that's kind of pie in the sky, that's kind of hand wavy. But if it's like directly enhancing HEX, like as like an asset or as a contract, it is utilizing HEX to like as the HEX contract was written to boost the user experience and keep money in the HEX economy. I think that's good. But it's like it's it's all kind of up to people to kind of that's just my perspective, and that's kind of how, at least how I approach building these pools, for instance. Like, it was purely to solve a user problem in HEX. Like, when I ended my, like, especially during peak bull market, and I ended a HEX stake and it cost hundreds of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait, if this costing me $100 and everyone else who ends,
and I'm really smart,
$100, and then I went in the chat and asked, I was like, wait, why did my stakes used to cost less to end than now? And they're like, oh, every day that goes by costs a little bit more gas. And so that's that's the big problem, is that and especially if you calculate, because like there's the gas price, and then there's the number of units of gas that a contract call uses. So when you add up the amount of gas units that are used by a HEX stake for a max length stake, so for it to end a max length stake, if the current Ethereum blocks remain at the same size, meaning they have the same gas, it's called the gas limit per block. It's the how many units of gas can be included in a block. At the end of a max length stake, at the current gas, at the current like opcode costs and the current gas limit per block, only 2 max length stakes will be able to fit on a single Ethereum block. So, every day, especially lately, there have been like 100 max length stakes per day, mainly driven by like, the ICOSA, like minting ICOSA with the max length stakes. So during those days, every day, 50 blocks, entire full blocks, it would take 50 full blocks just to process the 100 max length stakes ending each day. And so imagine that one that who knows what other NFT or DeFi or whatever the next like hype trend acronym is in crypto that may be competing for that scarce block space. And then also, just like all the Hexicans trying to end their stakes to front run each other as they end. The gas price, like the Ethereum network, could come to a grinding halt as a result of the HEX stakers, because if only 2 HEX stakes can fit per block, who knows what changes between now and then? But like, assuming that everything stays as is, because that's kind of all you can base it on. You can have hopium and expectations that someone's going to fix it, but why would you make your product cheaper when people are more than willing to pay more? It's like, so the HEX stakes alone could just be massively driving the gas price up, because regardless of gas price, if only 2 stakes can fit per block, and there's only how many, every 10 seconds there's a block, so how many is that per day? And that doesn't even
maybe this is good for PulseChain though. Is this good for PulseChain?
I mean, Well, so I think on PulseChain, they're probably going to increase the gas limit, but still, I mean, you could increase that by 5 times. Then okay, 10 stakes can end per block. So because there's capacity, because those block, it's directly related to how much memory and bandwidth that those node operators need, and so the
Nodes, you
larger
better be beefy. Better be beefy.
yeah. So the larger it gets, then the less, the less number of total nodes that people can reasonably have, and so the network could be, and that's a risk. That's like a centralization risk. Like centralization in supply of assets can be a good thing, but centralization in the network probably not such a good thing, because then it's like less targets to go after. Whether you're a hacker or a government or whomever, just trying to suppress the activity going on there. So, and also, since PulseChain hasn't launched yet, I don't even really consider it even a thing yet. Like it only until it's live, then I'm not factoring that into like how I'm planning, my life and the assets that I'm building, because that's it
You're
just
not
doesn't.
taking out a bunch of mortgages. You're not taking on a bunch of debt to make sure you can just murder your PulseChain bags as soon as it comes out.
Yeah. So
People don't do that. Do not set up events in the future with money that rely on speculative dates of launch. Please don't do that.
Yeah. So even if it's still over there, it's gonna maybe they'll be processed faster because the blocks will be happening faster and they'll be have a little bit more capacity. But still, like that's a huge amount. And then so that's the main reason why people should be pooling, is because like but it's kind of a fundamental for HEX, but it's going to come at a lot of people's expense. And that's really what I worry, is that whomever's, because whether they're just people staking on their own, or whoever ends up with all these really small max length HSIs, it's like, if everyone's trying to end the stakes, then that's going to run the gas price up, because there's a finite amount of block space for people to bid on. So it makes
PulseChain bull run. PulseChain bull run in 2035 is everyone ending their 15-year or 10-year stakes and stuff.
Well, it's more like a HEX bull run, because what happens is that if the higher the gas price goes, then the more HEX stakes that are infeasible to end, because why would you end it when you could just buy more HEX with that gas money? And so that is HEX that will just bleed out to the people that can afford the stake to end the stake. And the people that are going to be able to afford, that are most likely to be able to afford to end the stake, are the people that participate in stake pools, because instead of one person per stake end that you have to pay for, you're doing that as a group. So it's kind of like it makes me sad that it's going to come at a lot of people's expense, especially like there's a lot of people that have been dollar cost averaging into HEX. I see it because I run that max length stake bot, and I see regularly like 1,000 HEX max length stake, and whether or not, who knows what the value of the HEX is going to be relative to the gas, but it's those people are still, it's just like a big drain on that HEX. So it's good for the people that can afford it, because that is HEX supply that the market was pricing in that it was going to become liquid. But then, as a reality sets in and those makes it feasible to end, then that just, that supply is delayed, and then it's being, extended out, as those late end stake penalties pretty much just punt out that supply into the remaining T shares after that. Then there's less supply in the market, so it means less people to compete with as a seller, which can be good for you. That can drive the price of HEX up, which maybe helps solve, maybe that unlocks more stakes that are feasible to end. But it's a pumpamental for the HEX price, because basically a lot of people burnt their HEX, but they don't know it yet. They staked max length, or or maybe they held a HSI max length, bought an auction, and they think it's there. And then as they get there, oh shit, it's a bull market. What's all this NFT stuff that's driving the price up? Oh wait, also the HEX skins, they're also driving the price up. And then it's just like it just bleeds out, and then they're like, well shit. So that's unattainable. That's the big, while it's beneficial for our pools, like for the more people that stake on their own, it only boosts the value proposition of these pools. but I don't want the value proposition of these pools to come at the regular user's expense. Like that to me, like that's why I'm trying to solve this problem, is because a lot of people are going to be really disappointed when they come their HEX, even if they can't afford it, or maybe, it like wipes years off of their yield. Maybe it turns your 15-year stake into the equivalent of a 7-year stake. If it cut half your yield, then it's like, well, shit, why did I lock it up for 15 years? I could have achieved that with a shorter stake. And so those are the problems that are directly solved with these. And it's kind of just like a nice side effect that, like, people continuing to stake on their own and, scheduling a time when they're going to be driving the gas price up. It's like a pump-mental for HEX, and then also a pump-mental for these pool tokens. So that's really the kind of a dynamic that we saw it play out a little bit in this past bull run with the fees, but those were only, at that time, it was only like, if that was a year ago, those were only 700-day stakes, and when it's 5,555-day stakes, then it's going to be a big problem, because when it gets to the point where only 2 stakes can fit per block, that's a problem. And so that's really what these pools solve, and that's why it's like a critical piece to HEX, I think. And instead of like an adjacent like thing that's kind of siphoning away, it's helping Hexicans keep more of their money. So that's
hope you all are out there listening.
I think really differentiates what we're doing from the other stuff. But I also think there's absolutely a place for people to speculate on dog shit. Like, absolutely. Like, I fully support that.
Yeah, it's called a centralized exchange. Plenty of options, and other on the DEXs too. But hope everyone's out there listening. There's your alpha, and we're only halfway through the show. So before we go into the other stuff we want to talk about, which is the stuff you've been hinting on every few minutes and stuff too. Got a couple questions I want to get to. Let's see. Talk to the chat. Chat, share the link. I know there's like 5 live streams going on right now. Good for the community, isn't it? But if anyone is tired of their other live stream right now, feel free to come over, because we're about to get into some hot stuff too. All right, maybe just like 2 questions I saw recently. Terra Bear had a question. I remember that. Okay. Any updates for the audit?
No. So they told me that it was supposed to be ready on the 28th, and then the day before that, they messaged me and said that it'll probably be ready on Monday or Tuesday. It is now Tuesday, so I'm awaiting it to get back to me. So that's all I have on the audit. But we have had a successful testnet phase, and the front ends are ready to go. The contract, provided that nothing in the audit comes back that we need to fix anything big, the contracts are ready to go. And so as soon as that's back, we will schedule a launch, and it will be quite soon.
Quite soon. You've heard it here. Maybe in 5 minutes. It may be in 5 days. We don't know, but quite soon.
Yeah, if they send me the audit and they're like good to go, I'll literally click deploy on the stream right now.
That would be cool. That would be cool. Yeah, no, actually, selfishly, I want you to do that, but as a for the community, I'm going to say don't do that. Do a little bit more diligence before you go. Yeah. Cool. I think that's all the questions. You guys got any questions real quick before we get into team and perpetuals? Yeah, just a lot of love, man. Just a lot of love. A lot of people love what you're doing. One click away. Cool. So, simplest way possible. I know this is tough to ask. Simplest way possible. What is Maxi, Team, and Perpetuals? And could you describe the positive feedback loop between HEX, Maxi, Team, all the new tokens?
Yeah. So Maxi, that was the first stake pool that we launched. It launched on April 15th. And in 2 weeks, we pooled 294 million HEX and then staked it for 15 years. So it's been trading on the market for about now 4 months. And It's hit as high as like a 2-to-1 premium versus the underlying HEX. That one ends in 15 years, and at the end of the 15 years, all of the HEX is redeemable, for the Maxi. So each Maxi token, you get if you have 1% of the Maxi supply, you get 1% of the end result of that stake. So that was a really big success, and we had a lot of people asking for additional pools of different lengths and different strategies and all types of cool ideas. And so we boiled it down to we wanted to just span the whole range of lengths and risk. And so we are rolling out the Perpetuals. So the Perpetual, it's very similar to the Maxi contract with a couple changes. One, the main difference is that in Maxi, it's a one and done stake. Whereas with these Perpetuals, as the name suggests, they repeat forever. So we have base, trio, lucky, and deci. And as you can see there, the base is a 1-year stake. Trio is a 3-year stake. Lucky is a 7-year stake. And decimus or deci is a 10-year stake. So at the start, they will all mint at a 1-to-1 rate. But then after each stake ends, the contract sets a new minting and redemption rate that reflects the amount of HEX that it had earned during that period. So say the base stake earns 10%. Right now, the mint rate is 1-to-1, where you need 1 HEX to mint 1 base. But after the first year, as base earns about 10%, you now will need 1.1 HEX to mint base in that following year. And then so, as time goes on, these redemption rates ratchet up based on the earnings. And then the price also kind of follows that, because the price is basically measuring how much each token is redeemable for. And that redemption rate is the amount that it's redeemable for. So what we'll probably see is, the base price chart, just kind of, ratcheting up with the earnings. And then the trio one will probably be a little more volatile, but then it'll ratchet up, there to, to what it earns over 3 years, and then lucky over 7 years. So you'll kind of see 4 different lines, on the chart, since deci earns more, but base is redeemable sooner. So, those are the pools. They, those provide the benefits of stake pooling that I was describing earlier. So you'll earn more HEX staking in these pools than you will on your own. You'll save massively on gas fees, and you have liquidity if you need. These are fully normal ERC20 tokens that are redeemable for the HEX at the end of the stakes, but you can trade them at any time. And so those are the main user benefits. And again, kind of reiterate, these are going to keep a lot of money in the HEX economy that would otherwise be bled out to, to ETH stakers. Like, for instance, when Maxi launched, we had like 5,400 participants, and the total gas cost for everybody was only like $30,000. And so that's like $6 a person for approve and the stake and the mint and the start. Wow. And then at the end of the stake, it'll probably cost thousands of dollars to end stake, but that's spread out over many people. And you as an individual aren't responsible for that. The way that they end is just anyone can end it and pay the gas. And then the contract saves, it records who paid for the gas. So people can choose to, reimburse them. Or I've even written a smart contract. I haven't published it yet or really worked on it much, because it doesn't really matter till the end. But I've even written a smart contract that allows people to deposit ETH into a contract, and then whoever ends the stake can withdraw all the ETH from that contract. So, there are gas pooling solutions that will, be useful in due time. But for you as a user, you're not responsible for ending that stake. And with these Perpetuals, since they start over into the next one, they just auto compound, meaning if you don't have to do anything, and you just lock, and you just wait till the next one starts, you just lock in for the next year or the next, stake cycle. So, so those are the Perpetuals. And the growth engine behind the Perpetuals is a separate token called Team. So Team is not a HEX stake. Team is the Maximus DAO Team token. So if you want to be on the Maximus DAO team, you mint Team. And what Team has an incentive to grow these pools by where Team gets paid half of the bigger pays better bonus from these stakes. And so we chose the bigger, and it also gets the hedron from these stakes. So team has, every time one of these stakes ends, team stakers will get HEX and hedron. And so team is meant to be a growth engine for these perpetuals. If these perpetuals are big, the team staker earnings are big. If these perpetual pools are small, the team staker earnings are going to be small. And so it's really, it's meant to be like, the whole purpose of it was for it to be a growth engine for these perpetuals. And so so it's a class of users that have an incentive to grow these pools, whether that's to onboard existing hexagons or to onboard new hexagons into HEX and into minting into these pools. Because the team people, they don't necessarily get paid from people buying these pools. They get paid from people minting into the pools. Like they don't get paid based on the premium on the price chart. They get paid from onboarding new people into the pools when the mintings happen. So so that's like a direct like HEX growth incentive, and it almost brings back like the referral bonus that existed.
Can you explain that? Why is that a HEX incentive, referral bonus, all that?
Yeah, because the team reward only comes from that bigger pays better bonus, and so the larger the pool, the bigger that the amount that's shared with team. But it actually doesn't really come out of the user's pocket, because one, that's HEX that they wouldn't have got anyway staking on their own. So it basically converts the 10% max bigger pays better bonus to 5% bigger pays better bonus, which the bigger pays better bonus compared to longer pays better. Like for instance, on the base stake, the longer pays better bonus is 10%. So like bigger pays better is actually very tiny, like all things considered. And that's money that you only got by joining the pool. We don't draw from longer pays better because you can get longer pays better on your own, but bigger pays better is something that you will only get from the pool. And it's a direct growth incentive for the team stakers. So that's why we chose to make that team bonus sharing come from the bigger pays better. And it's like a referral because that bigger pays better, it's based on principal size. And so, onboarding people into staking through these pools, the team stakers earn from that. And so, there's only so many existing hexagon, there's 100,000 staking addresses, which means there's probably only 30,000 active stakers. And so that's only, so many people there. And so the team stakers, I think, really are going to be the first really truly incentivized group that, has skin in the game to, and an incentive to drive adoption of new hexagons and, getting people onboard people into HEX and then stake through these pools, because they earn from the larger the pools are, because it comes from that bigger pays better bonus. That's where they get their staker income from. So that's what can be like a big growth catalyst for HEX, is that there's now a class of users that earn in addition to just the basic price appreciation of, because everyone earns from basic price appreciation of HEX, but they also, earn additional HEX from directly onboarding people into these pools. So that's a big, growth catalyst for HEX. And that's kind of the feedback loop that I'm hoping to see, is that the team stakers are incentivized to grow the pools, and they earn from that, and then they're able to use those incomes to finance even better marketing campaigns. Maybe we see a lot of digital strategies, those high impact ones, not things like sponsoring a sports team or those things are kind of roundabout, but like direct strategic marketing initiatives that produce positive ROI. Right. That what this system is creating, where they have a direct incentive to do that. And the larger that these,
I'll be right. Keep going. I'll be right back.
Oh yeah. So the larger that these pools are, the more that they earn, and then the more staker earnings that there are, then perhaps the more valuable the underlying team is. And so they kind of have two different value sources: one just from the earnings, but two from the value appreciation of the team as a result of increased earnings. And so that's really the culture that we're trying to cultivate around team, is that These are people that are serious and incentivized to onboard new people into HEX, decrease the gas fee impact on the HEX economy, and improve the financial utility of HEX. So that's what Team is. So holding Team is basically like holding a little bit of exposure to all the pools, because you earn a small portion of the yield from those pools, and so yeah, that's really the purpose of Team and how it fits in with the Perpetuals.
I got a question. Sandy Beach, we get a copy of PulseChain too of all these, sounds like.
Yeah, so when PulseChain happens, the entire HEX or the entire Maximus ecosystem is going to be copied over, because they're all just basic ERC20s, and the stakes get copied over just like normal. So that's gonna be exciting to see. I did a whole video on it about like what happens when the whole Maxi ecosystem is copied over, and it could be pretty crazy, because I think we even talked about this on our first one, where we're talking about comparing the EHEX PHEX price versus the EMAXI PMAXI price.
Yep.
Because the EHEX PHEX is the market pricing the value across the chains of liquid HEX on Pulse to liquid HEX on ETH, whereas the EMAXI PMAXI is pricing max length stake HEX on ETH versus max length stake HEX on Pulse. And so the ratio between those two ratios, gives us information about how the market's like, viewing the future value of PulseChain and the future value of assets on PulseChain versus that on Ethereum. And so now, that was like to start, we had the cross-chain value comparison of liquid HEX to max length staked HEX. And now we have these 4 pools that fill in that gap between 1 year, 3 year, 7 year, and 10 year to kind of fill out that, the yield curve, if you will, and comparing the value of staked HEX at various lengths across the chain. So that's like a way that the market is going to communicate to us how it views just like the long-term, perspective on PulseChain versus Ethereum, and how it thinks the gas fees are going to go. Because, if that's a big part of the value proposition of these pools, then, probably the one with higher gas may have a higher premium on, versus the other. And then, right. So I think that's going to just give the market important information about the future. And it's going to be pretty exciting to see.
What would you say to somebody who, maybe, excuse me, one of the criticisms of Maxi, why would I buy Maxi? If it's only going to have a premium on HEX a little bit, I want my 10,000X. Why in the world would I buy Maxi? I don't want to be here for 15 years. I'm here 2 years max, blah, blah, blah. What is there? Yeah. What would you say to someone like that? And does the Team ecosystem, Perpetuals ecosystem, does this broadening of it, does it give them more of a reason to participate now or not?
Yeah. So with Team of the Perpetuals, it introduces products that span the entire risk spectrum and the entire time horizon spectrum that a user may have. So if someone wants 10,000X in 2 years, then they probably want Team, because it has the highest risk of all of them. Because all the perpetual pools, the price of those is going to be HEX price times the earnings. So those are really bound by the HEX price. But Team, because it has its own supply and demand dynamics, and where the total where Team after the minting phase, that's the maximum amount of Team that will ever be, and the Team supply only goes down. Whereas every year, if these perpetuals, people just roll forward into the next year, and these perpetuals grow every year, then the earnings are going to be growing. So if the earnings for Team stakers are growing while the supply of Team is dwindling, like what's a increasing number divided by a decreasing number? Like that's, do the math on that one. And so the Team has separate, because it's not basically like wrapped HEX. It earns HEX yield and Hedgerin, and we'll talk about the minting of Team in a little bit, which has it earns some Maxi as well, but the Team has its own supply and demand dynamics, and so because it's like not HEX related, it's a brand new thing, it has higher risk. So that higher risk can perhaps account for higher reward in a sooner time period as, you know, the market prices that in. And especially we'll talk about what happens in year 3 specifically. So for that 2-year time horizon, really high targets, you know, team is probably that one. But if you have a longer term time horizon where, you know, you want to at least just outperform HEX on its own, then perhaps things like Lucky or Deci are good for you because you're going to be earning at a very high rate. You know, because 7 years, that's even, you know, that's 70% of the max longer pays better. And, you know, and if that's maxed out bigger pays better, you know, you're earning that as well. And it's, you know, not impacted by the increasing share rate, like the base stake and the, you know, is, you know, because every year it has to restake at the new share rate, whereas Lucky. So if you want, you know, like a little bit higher risk, you know, but more modest earnings, then those are, you know, or higher risk and higher earnings. But, you know, you want to, you know, have serious exposure to HEX, then Lucky and Deci are really good for you. Base and Trio are more for people that may be relying on these funds and they can't tolerate really high premium and discount risk.
Like retirement.
So retirement, or people who, you know, like passive income strategies, or people who want to supplement their income with these. So having these ones, they're fine with earning less yield if the amount that it earns is more certain for them to be able to plan their life around. Because with like a base stake, for instance, with that one ending every year, and it's probably going to be earning around 10% per year at current, you know, stake rates, it's because that the redemption period happens in a year, then it's very unreasonable for someone to buy base at a really high premium or sell base at a really low discount. And so the base price will probably, you know, no way to predict it, but it'll probably hover right around the earnings rate. And then every year it settles back to the redemption rate. And so it's a lot more certain than, say, Deci or Maxi, where like right now there's a screaming, you know, I mean, it's even hard to say what a premium is, but you know, there's with those longer stakes where there's less certainty around how much it's actually going to earn, and it's a very long time until it's actually redeemable. The longer the stake is, the wider the potential premium discount range can be. So if you're relying on these funds for, you know, real life expenses that you may need, the shorter stake, you're willing to tolerate less yield because you know, there's more certainty around what you're going to earn. And so that's like the trade-off that people make is, you know, if you can tolerate higher risk that at the time you may want to sell, that a lot of other people may want to be selling, and there's a big discount, then, you know, you may, if you can tolerate that, then those longer stakes are a good solution. But then if you're, you know, you think you'll need money in 3 years or need money next year, and you can't tolerate the risk of there being a discount or just a lot of other people wanting to sell the longer term stake pool at the same time as you, then those are what those shorter ones are for. So we really tried to span the like risk and time horizon spectrum, you know, with both Team, which is like the highest risk, you know, highest risk, highest reward potential, and then Maxi, you know, which, you know, is, you know, the like higher risk, and then Deci, you know, down to Lucky, Trio, and Base, which is like the least risky. Holding Base is basically like holding liquid HEX. And then holding debt is more like a long-term strategy. So we wanted to, you know, really fill in that whole gap to give users options, and to, you know, and equip people with, you know, a sales where someone's like, okay, I like this, but I don't want to lock up for 15 years. I can only lock up for 2, you know, kind of like you said, I can only lock up for 2 years. Then, okay, then, you know, maybe hold a little bit of Base and a little bit of Trio, so that you have your Base, which is redeemable in 2 years, and then, or every year, you can redeem it twice if you want. And then you also have Trio, which is going to earn a little bit more. And then maybe at that 2-year mark, you can sell your Trio. And then hopefully that, because there's only a year left in Trio, you know, maybe the price will be really close to the end redemption rate, because it'll be pretty certain what the final value is going to be. So it's holding a basket of these coins lets people choose exactly what their risk and their time horizon is. And they actually provide a really great solution for that.
And the better HEX does, the better they do. That's correlation.
Yeah. I mean, you know, because you're earning HEX. So because you're holding HEX, because these pools are fully backed by staked HEX. So, you know, as HEX price in USD goes up, the price of the USD price of these go up with it, times the amount that it's earning.
And so for Maxi though too, after the minting phase for Team, why would people buy Maxi after they've bought it, used it to mint Team, all this stuff? Why would they still continue to hold or buy Maxi after this new the Perpetuals and Team exist now?
Yeah, so I mean, there's there are more options. If you think that the Team or the Maxi premium is going to go higher than it currently is, that's good. Similar why people buy like bonds. It's like they're not really buying it for the yield; they're buying it because they think other people are going to buy the bond later.
It's a good analogy.
So that's the so that price potential. Also, like if it's ever at a discount to the net asset value, like the amount that actually has, it's like kind of a no-brainer to buy. But even at a so buying at a premium, it's like you're expecting continued premium. But also, it's even hard to determine what to base the premium on, because like right now, it's like we basically like at least on the Maximus website, we base the premium on the earnings to date. So it's earned about 10% so far. So the current price is like 1.9, like 1.9 divided by 1.1. That's like the current premium that we describe it. But the end value of the stake is probably going to be 6, at least from, if current daily payout per T share remains constant, it totally can happen. Then it's probably going to earn about 6. It's going to be worth about 6. So it's less than the end redeemable one. And, but more than what it was minted for 4 months ago. And it's more than what it has earned to date. But the market's also just pricing in the future earnings, because, it's like the yield it earns in the next month is basically good as earned already, right? Because it's like it takes a lot of time to move that daily payout per T share value consistently. So the market prices in. So right now, if it's at like 90% premium and it's earning 30% per year, it's basically as if the market is pricing in 3 years of yield, which is fairly reasonable. Like you can make a reasonable guess about what the daily payout per T share is going to be over a 3-year period. So it's kind of, the market's pricing in that value. You are, so someone buying Maxi now, like buying now to hold till redemption, they're earning less than someone who had minted, like clearly, because they're buying at 1.9 versus 1. But also, on the other hand, it all depends when the market fully prices in the end redemption value. Could be shorter than that 15-year period. So if you bought, say, just to make the math easier, if you bought at 2 HEX, so you paid 2 HEX for 1 Maxi, and then say the end value of Maxi is 6, if the price hits 6 in 7 years, then the APY, the effective APY that you achieved, even though you went up 3x, over 7 years as opposed to 6x over 15 years. So like the annualized APY is equivalent. And that's, so like someone buying, even though it's higher than now, the price may hit or even exceed the end redemption value at some point of the stake. And so if that class of user, obviously not everyone can sell, because then that makes the premium turn into not a premium. But if the market's already pricing it in, then you could achieve, that like the same measured APY, just because you're achieving that, you're achieving half the gain, but you're achieving that in half the time, because APY is like a per year thing. Like your earnings per year is equivalent. So that's why I think people are talking. And also, a lot of the buying right now is probably from the just because of the team minting, because there's some dynamics there that benefit Maxi. That was like our airdrop to Maxi minters, was structuring the team launch in the way that we did.
So Maxi is sort of like the bond. Team is like the 10,000x opportunity sort of deal, the riskier one. And the Perpetuals are kind of like stocks. And at the top level, you got the retirement ones. And at the bottom level, you got the, high performer short term, at least.
Kind of. So I'd say that the Perpetuals are also like bonds. They're actually very equivalent to what's called a zero coupon bond. and it's a type of fixed income instrument that it's a bond that, because usually like when you go to the bank and get a bond, you're getting interest payments as you go. But there's a category of bonds called zero coupon bonds that pay zero coupon. So coupon is the payment. So they don't pay an ongoing payment, but you collect all the payments at the end along with the principal. So these are actually like identical to, in the real world, a zero coupon HEX bond. So that's what the perpetuals are, and they kind of span the different cycles. And so like when you look on like there's a thing in the real world called the yield curve, and that's showing like the difference in yield for like the 30-year fixed versus the 15 versus the 1, like, and that kind of gives indicators about the health of the economy.
Right.
That's kind of what we'll see with these different lengths of stakes, is that those are all kind of like bonds. And then I would say that team is like the bond market, or like the exchange, not the exchange. That's probably a bad analogy, but like, it's like team is like the issuer of the bond, because I mean, technically the team contract deploys the pool contracts. Like that's how it's all done trustlessly. That's how you know that these pools are going to pay into team, is that it's actually the team contract that is deploying these. So I click deploy on the team contract, and so the team contract is deployed, and then the team contract itself deploys base, trio, lucky, and desi. So it's almost like team is like the issuer of the bonds, and then these are, and then and it's like you're you can be an issuer of these bonds by holding and staking team, and you can benefit from their growth. That that no one is, and that's the thing with team, is that nobody is expected to do anything. So like everyone should have no expectations that me or anyone else does anything, and likewise I have no expectation that anybody does anything. No one is expected to do anything. They are incentivized.
The contract will do a lot of the heavy lifting trustlessly. So
yeah. So it's all fully there's nothing that requires any one individual to do anything. Like all the functions of public can run them. So that's the that's probably the analogy, is that the team is like the issuer, and you can be part of that issuer. Like you can be one of the by joining the team, you can be an issuer, and yeah, so that's kind of the analogy I see there.
Gotcha. All right, we got like 15 minutes left for I believe our appointment. Got a lot to cover in 15 minutes, don't we? Sorry, everyone. There's a bunch of questions in here. Can we just do rapid fire, like 60 seconds? I'll just throw questions up. You give like a quick answer. Is that okay? Okay. Let's see. Scrolling down. Will you be able to top up Perpetual staking ladder?
Yeah. So during the new mint phases, you can always add to it. And then awesome. You can always add to it.
Where can I get team, and when is it I'll be able to get team?
So as soon as we launch, so once the audit gets back, we'll announce the launch date, and then you'll just go to the website. The domain hasn't been announced yet, but it'll be something.maximus.cash. So it'll be there. Watch out for scams. There will be scammers.
There will be scams. There always window time to unstake stake team.
Yeah, so the team staking happens in year-long increments. So in order to earn any of the yield from each staking period, you have to have staked for that whole year period. And so the base stake, that 1 year base stake, is like the calendar for team staking. And then that is the so you have to stake your team before the base stake starts, and you have to keep it staked until after the base stake ends. And then that's how and then if you do that, you're eligible to claim rewards from that period. And you have to renew your stake at least once a year. You can do it at any time during the year, but you have to actively roll your stake forward into your team stake forward into the next year. And that's done to prevent, dead people or inactive people from participating, from sucking up all the yield. And because the whole purpose is that the team is like the growth engine for for these pools. And so we don't want inactive people to be eating up all that yield. And so
No ghosts.
when you prove that you're active is by checking in with the contract once a year.
No ghosts on the chain.
Yeah.
We have to wait for launch to use Maxi at Team and stake Team once I get it. Yeah. Well, as Maximus said, I have to stay with T.
Okay. So what they're looking at is the testnet. So so we have a testnet version going, and then the it's going.
Common staking pool exercise dollars.
No,
I don't. Yeah, I mean, he said another comment too that was something about security. I'm like, I don't think you quite understand.
So the funds are not like for Team. So the way that Team minting works is that the people you mint one team per one maxi pledged to the pool, and then 20% of that maxi is burnt. 30% is held in an escrow contract that redistributes to team stakers in years 3, 6, and 9. And then 50% goes into something called the mystery box, which there are no expectations of anything from the mystery box at all. And so the funds that are going into Team are not a common pool, because it's not like the funds are being pooled for anything. Like they're not. You're buying an API key. You're buying a product. It's not an investment pool that the Team is. And there's no expectations of anybody, because, and the key point is that there's expectations that, the pooled funds are used to finance work that is, that will deliver profits for participants. And those pooled funds are not doing any work. You should assume that there's nothing that they don't owe you anything. That money is not, once you mint your team with Maxi, that Maxi is no longer your money. You have no redemption to it. There's nothing. So,
trustless contracts, not a security.
Yes.
See, Marion. All right, one other question, then we're gonna move on. I7 why 1, 3, 7, 10 years game 3 to fill in the gaps to rest ladder.
So the reason why we didn't do more is because it's like it kind of defeats, it doesn't defeat the purpose, but just like adding more on those short, like those year increments, it doesn't really boost anything, because like holding both a 3 and a 7 is kind of like holding a 5. So it's kind of no need to do that. And then not to say that, because not to say that there won't be future pools that just suddenly appear, of different lengths or different, stake styles or different dynamics built in. But yeah, so it was mainly just because, it's kind of no need. There's not a big difference between a 6-year stake and a 7-year stake. So,
okay. You want to just quickly go over how minting works? I know you talked about it for a second, and then trading pairs between the perpetuals, how that's going to work.
Yeah. So for the perpetuals, you mint at the start, you'll mint 1 hex per 1 base, or 1 hex per 1 trio, or Desi or Lucky. And then as soon as the minting phase is done, which will be about 21 days, the stake will start, and then there's no more minting until the stake ends, and then you'll mint at the new rate. But then for Team, the minting is just done simply 1 maxi per 1 team, and then that's it.
And how long will the minting period be?
21 days.
1 day is nice. I'll talk about the mystery box. Maybe we can end things on that as well. I mean, of course, if you have something anything else interesting to bring up too. But last question I got is, what is the mystery box, and are there parallels with it for the Hedron, FA, deployer address, stuff like that? What is that?
Yeah. So the mystery box, it gets half of the maxi that is minted into Team, the mystery box gets, and then it also gets a copy of all of the Team. And so it ends up with Team and maxi. And so about half the Team and then half the maxi. And then from there, there's truly no expectation. an address. It's actually a smart contract. The mystery box itself is actually a smart contract. It's only programmed to do one thing, which is send it to another address. But the mystery box, it is fully traceable, and I fully expect, everyone should trace that thing and watch what it's doing, because it truly can do anything, and it truly is a mystery. There's anything could happen, and there's no way to know until it's already happened. So
just like the Hedron FA, they I think they burned what, 1 trillion maxi, or a
million.
Million maxi, 1 trillion Hedron, 1 million maxi, I think is what it was. You think there'll be a quid pro quo between the mystery boxes, between the FA?
I mean, probably not any type of quid pro quo, but it is a mystery. It's absolutely a mystery. The mystery box, it truly could do anything. So what I recommend people to do is to just think about what they would do. Like what would you do if you had, if you were in control of, a bunch of team and a bunch of maxi that was, publicly traceable, trackable. What might you do? And what might you be incentivized to do?
And other coins, or just team and maxi?
Just those two.
Okay.
Yeah. And so those will be, so because truly anything could happen. I want to do a stream where we come up with like the craziest conspiracy theories about what could happen. Because on one end of the spectrum, the mystery box could just dump all the team and dump all the maxi day one and basically just give the money away by dumping it. Or they could just, do the opposite of that, which would be to just burn all the team and burn all the maxi and give it away in that way. Or they could, do, anything in between. They could, truly, they could just hold it forever. They could.
What would burning maxi do? Would it just, you think that would increase the premium? Like how would, if you burned, if like, let's take the Hedron deployer address. Let's pivot over there just so we can more safely talk about things. Let's say the Hedron deployer address, it burns like 1 million maxi every year. What does that do for maxi?
Yeah, so that directly increases the redeemable value, because the way that the maxi contract calculates how much HEX is redeemable for each maxi is it takes, after the stake ends, it measures how much HEX is in the contract after the stake, so the principal plus the yield, and it divides it by the total supply. And the total supply, when you run the burn function, the total supply goes down. So if you run the ERC20 burn function on that, it reduces that total supply value that the maxi contract uses to calculate the redemption rate. So if the denominator gets smaller, then the end result gets larger. So that means that all the HEX is now suddenly divided amongst the smaller set of maxi tokens. So the redemption rate goes up. And so perhaps the market may price in that redemption rate going up. And also perhaps the market may also be pricing in the fact that those burnt coins can now no longer be sold because they're burnt. So that's now reduced potential sell pressure. So, and that's what, so the maxi is, like I said, in the team minting, the 20% of all the maxi that's used to mint team is burnt. So that's boosting the value for maxi. And it's done for a couple reasons. One is to be like an airdrop to all remaining maxi holders, to people that don't mint maxi, we'll break off a bone for them by burning that. But also because in years 3, 6, and 9, there's that 3, 6, 9 maxi rebate. It boosts the value of that maxi, which can potentially boost the value of team, because during years 3, 6, and 9, team stakers get maxi, and if that maxi is now suddenly more valuable, then there's some benefit there. And so and also to make the decision on whether to mint team really difficult, because the more difficult the decision is, the more people will make the wrong decision, and the people that make the wrong decision first and then have to make up for it, that's positive future energy. And so making that decision difficult, where some people, they're like no brainer, all in on team, and then other people a little more hesitant. If you run, I encourage everyone to run their own numbers on what they think team will earn and what they think that earning impact will do to the underlying team price. because no one knows. And it's based on pool size and team stake rate. So that's kind of the main driver. But the maxi burn is just kind of one of the fun parts of the launch extravaganza that we're doing.
Man, it's been I'd love to spend another hour or so with you. We could talk for hours, literally. I mean, I got good questions, you got good answers. I could literally have like a 3-hour stream with you.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. Tell people where they can like what's next. We're waiting on the audit come back and then launch ASAP after that. Sounds like
yeah, pretty much. So follow me on Twitter. That's where everything is on Twitter. So Tonto Nominai on Twitter, and then also Maximus_DAO on Twitter. That's where all the information is going to be. So find me there. Telegram group is t.me/Maximus DAO. Other good information there to learn and ask questions. But yeah, just stay tuned. If you want to participate in team, get your maxi ready. If you want to participate in the perpetual pools, just get your liquid HEX ready, and then that's all you got to do.
Nice. Tonto Nominai. That's the key. Okay. Well, we didn't make it to 700, man, but we made it over 70, so we'll take it. Again, appreciate your time. I'm excited for team launch. I'm excited for perpetuals. I'm excited for Maxi came out. I thought that was like probably my favorite launch phase of any coin was the Maximus launch. It was just so fun and positive and nice. Mm-hmm. Everything was nice. Like there's nobody. Yeah. I don't remember anyone being mean in the Maximus launch. I don't know. It was just a nice time. And now we got this amazing projects coming up. You and Alex in particular in the community building these products again. We cannot express how much appreciation we have for you two, Gold Key, and everyone else involved in making Hedron, Icosa, Wata, Team, Maxi, Perpetuals. Everything's so good. I think it's wonderful for the community, and hope people watching who have skepticisms and maybe aren't sure or they're HEX maxis or whatever it is. I hope they're able to watch this interview, watch other interviews you do, and see how much you put into, see how much love you have for HEX and what your goal is for the ecosystem. So I truly wish you the best, and we'll definitely have to get you back on to talk turkey again, because hour and a half is not enough for you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm happy to hop on whenever.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
Have a great rest of your day. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Everyone, we'll be on tomorrow with Cabana Crypto. So come back if you want to talk to me and Cabana. Other than that, go follow Dipcatcher. Go follow me at RHMaximus, just the way it sounds. This is the end of the show. EOF, we out.